on your what we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party. Peace and love, party people. Once again, it's Talib Kweli, the BKMC, the MCEO. I am coming to you straight from Yellow Springs, Ohio. Shout out to my co-host of the world's best podcast, Jasmin Leigh. What's up, Jasmin? How you feeling?
What up? I'm doing great. Had my coffee this morning. I'm ready to go.
Are you fired up?
I'm fired up.
Well, like I said, this is the world's best podcast, People's Party, and I am excited today because once again we have a guest from New York. And Jasmin, you know how we feel about our fellow New Yorkers. Now, I don't often give out props to MCs that don't put in the work. And there's not a lot of MCs that I look at for inspiration as far as my own writing. There's not a lot of MCs that when I hear them spit, I'm like, you know, Bob Dylan, I said this on the show before, said that when he goes to a show, he goes to see somebody do something that he can't do. He don't want to sing along. So when I see somebody, an MC, do something that I can't do, I take notice. And this gentleman is one of those MCs. Our guest today is one of the undisputed heavyweight champions of New York City's mixtape era. He carries the legacy of Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? He has that grimy New York style. His song, Alphabetical Slaughter, when it came out, it changed the game. It changed the way that myself and a lot of MCs looked at MCing. He started working with K-Slay. Started working with Flip Mode Squad. His first studio album, Nasirima Dream, brought his voice to the world and solidified his spot amongst MCs. He came with You Can't Stop the Destiny. He came with Underrated. He got the new joint out, Endangered Species. Some of y'all might know him from Love and Hip Hop New York, but I know him from MCing. Some of y'all might know him from his beautiful and talented wife, Remy Ma. They offer a beautiful example of black love, and we gonna definitely talk about black love. This gentleman has kept integrity in the world of reality TV. They call the show Love and Hip Hop. And I'll be honest, ain't too much love and ain't too much hip hop on the show until you see this man step up. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the mixtape legend from Do or Die Best Die. Papoose is in the house. Word is born.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace, man. I appreciate that introduction, brother. For real, man. Thanks,
no doubt.
Man. Thank you.
No doubt.
Thank you,
it's earned. You know, we got to give our peoples their flowers while they're here. This is the reason why we do this show, so we can talk to people who influence and impact the culture in the way in which you do.
Thanks. Now, I appreciate that. Coming from you, you know, it means a lot, man. And first and foremost, you know, I want to thank you for everything you contributed to the culture and just to everything. You know what I'm saying? And also, I want to thank you personally for doing something that a lot of artists that I looked up to never did. You know, you actually put me on your album early in my career. And I never got a chance to tell you, but that meant a lot, bro. Like, that was a big opportunity for me. That was so, I can't even find the words to let you know how appreciative I was of that, because I came in the game looking up to lyricists like yourself and so many other lyricists, and you were one of the only ones, you know what I'm saying, besides G Rap, that actually put me on your project, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Certain other rappers, they give me my props behind closed doors. You know what I mean? They don't want nobody to know. You know what I'm saying? But you put me on your song, you put me on your project, and I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I've heard you speak publicly about feeling like sometimes other rappers might be scared to get in the booth with you. And I understand that feeling, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you getting on the song The Beast. I thank you in the same way, because I don't know if you understood the impact that you had on the city and on the culture at that time. Like, at that time, you was what everybody was talking about. And for me to do a feature with you that late in my career showed me that I still was on the cutting edge. It showed me that I still had my ear to the streets and that I could still get in there. Like I said in the intro, like, you know, slouch, bro. Like, I went into that session like, nah, I gotta step my game up. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you challenging me in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, and your name holds a lot of weight. Like, you have one of those names, and when you hear your name instantly, you know, you know what I'm saying? Put your thinking caps on. This brother's about to bring it.
Thank you.
I did speak about MCs being intimidated, and, you know, that cost me a lot of opportunities in my career. But you, not even for a second, like, you was like, let's go. Yeah. And you put me on a joint where I can actually be myself. You know what I'm saying? Just thanks, man. I'm appreciative of the opportunity, but real talk.
No doubt, no doubt. We also want to joint with Hot Tech and Jadakiss,
Facts.
Raekwon, the where it all started. So that's a great joint as well. All the people listening and watching, check that out. Now you spoke on my hat. You said you liked my hat when we first sat down. You are known for your hat game. I'm also a hat dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, which one of us you think got more baseball hats, you or me?
Humbly, I gotta say me. Because, I think everybody out there watching right now would agree with me. I wear so many hats that they like, does he have a head under there? Does he have hair? Like, for years, it was like a mystery if I even had a head, because they never seen me without a hat. So, besides LL, I probably was the only guy who wore a hat at all times.
I'm definitely a hat dude. People never see me without a hat. I tell people, you got to either be intimate with me or we got to be on a beach somewhere. Like, you don't get access to the full quality. You know what I'm saying? I got to protect my energy.
Well, that's what happened to me. I was on the beach and I still had on a hat. And they was like, oh, he's on the beach. He's still wearing that.
Some real New York shit.
Right. There you go.
So, Pap, you a Brooklyn dude, born in Bed-Stuy, very important neighborhood to hip-hop. Grew up in Bed-Stuy in the 80s. It's a different neighborhood now. What do you remember about pre-gentrified Bedford-Stuyvesant?
One of the first things that come to mind, there were no raccoons.
Yeah, word. Word.
Once they gentrified Brooklyn, you start seeing raccoons. I'm like, what's going on over here?
Right. White people bring a whole different type of rodent. They
bring a whole different type of, you know what I'm saying, environment. Man,
I'm dying.
The raccoons, it's so different. I remember when I was growing up, it was an abandoned building and an abandoned lot, like between every other building. All of the lots, all of the abandoned buildings are gone. Those don't exist anymore. A lot of businesses, you have access. Like, we used to have to walk all the way to Pickens Avenue to get a pair of sneakers or to get certain things we need. There are businesses everywhere, all over the place. Unfortunately, we don't own them,
That's right.
One time I was downtown Brooklyn and I parked like across the street from the Barclays because I was about to go in. And a lady came over there and was like, you gotta move. You can't sit here. And I'm like, I grew up out here my whole life. Like, why is she wilding? I'm talking about she even called the police. Like, you can't sit here. Like, I was like, damn, this never used to happen in Brooklyn, But yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, first of all, I did not know that white people brought on raccoons. I don't know, maybe it's all of the vegan food or something. I'm not sure. But
we gotta look into that. There's some signs behind that. We gotta
find out.
Yeah.
Is Bed-Stuy like the best rap neighborhood on earth?
When you think of guys like Biggie, Jay-Z, when you think of guys like that, how can you not say so? Most Def, there you go.
Most Def, it's from Bed-Stuy.
Most Def, you know what I'm saying? I can keep going. I think Kane is from the style too.
Kane, absolutely.
Come on now. What do you want me to say? That kind of list.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. I agree.
Now, you are approaching, or not even approaching, you are at OG status. We had OG status in the game. But when we came in the game, we had OGs like Kool G Rap. And both you and me were blessed to do records with Kool G Rap. He even, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of took you under his wing for a little bit, right?
Definitely, absolutely. G Rap was one of the first artists, you know what I mean, when I was young, back in 1998. He actually put me on his album, Roots of Evil. You know what I mean? And gave me my first major release, you know what I'm saying? And I learned so much just being around G. Took me out to Puerto Rico. I'm talking about when I was just a young kid in the hood. Flew me out to Puerto Rico, taught me so much, man. So, shout out to G Rap, a living legend. And was one of my favorite rappers at the time. So dream come true. Still is to this day. He's in my top 5. Yeah.
He don't get a lot of respect. He don't get enough respect. He get a lot of respect from people like us. But people, you got to be really a student of the culture, student of the game, and a student of lyricism to really understand the impact and the influence that G-Rap had, and I hear it, when I look at the lineage of G-Rap, that's why Black Thought is so ill. Because when you think about Black Thought, he's like a mesh of G-Rap and Kane, the way that he approached his lyricism. When you hear Big Pun, they was listening to G-Rap, you know what I'm saying? There's a whole lineage there. And I feel like you part of that lineage.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, G-Rap is one of my favorite rappers of all time. And I think whether people recognize it or not, the truth remains. The truth is not an opinion. It's just a fact that he inspired so many MCs, with his lyrics and his impact on the game. G Rap is amazing to me, man. Like, he wrote one of the hardest verses I ever heard. The hardest verses I ever heard in my life.
Your name, Papoose, is an Algonquin name and sounds a lot lighter with more vowels than most rap names. You said it was a good pronunciation?
Yeah, good pronunciation.
What's the story behind your name? How did you pick it?
Yeah, well, actually, when I was born, when my mother brought me home from the hospital, my grandmother looked at me, what I was told, and she said, he looks like a little Papoose. And that name stuck with me throughout my whole life. It stuck with me so much that when I went to school, grade school, and they was teaching me how to write my name, I was so confused when I found out my real name wasn't Papoose. Because that's what everybody called me. And then when I came into music, I didn't want to create a name, you know what I mean? I didn't want to create like a fictitious name or anything. I just kept the name. My grandmother passed away from cancer, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna carry this name that she gave me, and here you have
amazing.
it. You know what I mean? So instead of saying baby, the Indians would say Papoose, and that's why she gave me that name. And then I later found out that my grandmother was Indian. You know what I'm saying? So I kept the name.
I want to take this time to say rest in peace to Justo. Justo created the Mixtape Awards, and that's a dude that I feel like doesn't get enough props for what he did to the culture. You came of age sort of in that era of the Justo Mixtape Awards, and like how mixtape was really bubbling in the city. Can you maybe describe for people who wasn't there how important mixtapes was to sort of the fuel of the fire that was behind the culture?
Mixtapes were very important, man, back then, and they're still important now, but back then it was different because you were actually able to possess the actual mixtape and hold it, and it was like you really had to earn your spot on the mixtapes. You couldn't just make a lucky song and then you were all over the mixtapes. You had to work your way up through actually spitting and actually taking out your time and really going in. So that's why I respect and appreciate the mixtapes back then. And as far as Justo, he did so much for me and so many other MCs. He created the Mixtape Awards, and I was able to win the actual Mixtape Award, which was a dream come true for me. I won it actually twice. I won one on a lower level, and then I won the Mixtape Award. I'm Artist of the Year, and that was a big accomplishment for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I put out a year and a half worth of mixtapes before I even was thought about and to be considered for it. So just to put it in a nutshell, Justo, he created an amazing platform back then that was just for MCs, coming off the street and trying to become successful in this game.
Yeah, man. Shout out to people like Justo who see the vision.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Rest in peace, Justo, man.
Word is bond. Now, let's talk about alphabetical slaughter for a second. Me as an MC, I hear something like that, and I'm like, man, that's it. That's what, when I describe hip-hop to someone who doesn't understand the beauty of hip-hop, a record like that is what I play them. And I think one thing that's always separated you from back then when you created Alphabetical Slaughter to now, to some of the things that you're doing on Endangered Species, to what you did on the Touch It remix, to what you did on the Where It All Started with Me and High Tech, and what you've done numerous times, is you go above and beyond just like, I'm gonna write a verse about the subject, but you decide to take it someplace else. When you got a chance to do a record with Tupac and the Outlaws, you like, I'm gonna rap from the perspective of a coffin. You know what I'm saying? Like, you make it your business to be like, I'm not gonna stop at what most people expect rappers to do. I'm gonna peel back a layer, or maybe I'm gonna add a layer. When did you decide? And it had to be before Alphabetical Slaughter because that was well thought out. But when did you decide that you were going to separate yourself from the pack by being an MC that was going to do actual deep dives within the space of 16 bars and use your 16 bars for a lot more than most MCs do?
Yeah. Well, basically, hip-hop itself, to me, hip-hop is something you live, rap is something you do. Hip-hop itself made me want to be a part of it, the actual culture, the style, the graffiti, beatboxing, breakdancing, all of that attracted me to the game. And, I became involved at a very young age. And I was listening, I feel like, too much. Like, I shouldn't have been listening to that much hip-hop that young. Like, I was a little kid. Like, So that's why it kind of put me ahead of the game, and I was a part of it. But to be honest with you, man, you know, Big Daddy Kane made me want to be nice. Like it was a family friend came over and he was playing this tape and I was hearing just this dude with this intricate wordplay and I was just so astonished as a kid. So he went to the bathroom, you know, I took his cassette out and I put it in my pocket. And he came back. He's like, yo, anybody see my tape? I was like, nah, I didn't see it. I don't know.
Are you really from Brooklyn for real?
It was Long Live the Kane. It was Long Live the Kane, man.
It don't get much more Brooklyn than lifting the Big Daddy Kane tape from your home.
Yo, bro, that album made me say, yo, if I'm a rap, I gotta be nice, man.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I studied, you know, to become nice at it. So to answer your question, you know, it was Big Daddy Kane that inspired me. Like, yo, I gotta be nice at it. And then when I approach my verses, I just never want to be typical, man. You know, when I became attracted to hip hop, biting was like a no go. You couldn't copy somebody else.
That's right.
So I always try to be different and you know, be creative.
Word.
Around that time, you also started working with my dude, Busta Rhymes. I know I don't know him, but he's still my dude in my head. In Flip Mode. Busta is definitely a legend who might be a little bit underrated for his contributions to the culture. But can you tell me about the story when you first met Busta and getting invited to be on the Touch It remix?
Yo, it was the same blessing that I got when Talib reached out to me to be on his album. It was the same thing with Busta, you know. I was just working hard, you know, even before I even got with Slay and started, you know, making a name for myself, I was working hard before then. So I was just putting a lot of work. And one day, Busta just bigged me up on the radio like crazy. Like, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like I'm really making my dream come true. Like this is Busta Rhymes. And he's just up there like, yo, he's actually doing an interview with K Slay. And he's just speaking so highly of me. Saying, you know, he respect what I'm doing. You know, he see that I had a cult following at the time. And, you know, he wanted to work with me. And he created the opportunity. We went in the studio. We did a track called Respect Me As Mister. And I'm talking about, like, I worked so hard on that verse, man. Like, just like I did when Talib invited me. I hate to keep bringing that up, but I'm just trying to show you how much, verse. Like, yeah, I'm a fan of hip hop. So, like, these guys to me are like, you know what I mean? They like superstars to me, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, when Busta invited me to do a record with him, I was like, damn, I got to make sure it's a good verse. Man, it's Busta Rhymes. And I did the best I could, you know what I'm saying? And we did that record. And then after that, he wanted to further the relationship. So he sat down with Slay and we all came together and we formed the entity Street Sweeper / Flip Mode. And then he put me on a Touch It remix. And that changed my life. Like, I couldn't even walk the streets no more without getting rushed around that time off a Touch It remix.
That was a huge record. You had verses from DMX, Mary J. Blige, Rod Digger, Papoose.
Oh,
it was crazy.
Huge record. Missy Elliott.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. One time when Busta did actually put me on the Touch It remix, he called me out. He had a show. He was like, yo, I'm gonna bring you out. Around that time, I was doing shows all the time, so I was used to performing. And when he called me out, it was my cue. The whole crowd went crazy. So I was looking behind me like I was so confused, but it was for me who they were screaming for. That's how powerful the Touch It remix was. And I was just a regular kid from the hood. I wasn't used to that. You know what I'm saying? So peace to Busta for that opportunity.
Peace to Busta. New album sounded excellent. Extinction Level Event 2. The Wrath of God.
Crazy.
It sounded crazy.
And he's been in the gym crazy too. I seen the before and after pictures.
He posted that before and after, right? He looked like
man.
He looked like an ad
get it.
For a
hydroxycut
or some shit.
Shout out to
Busta is like in the gym for
Shout
real.
out to Busta Rhymes. Yeah,
he was busting them weights.
Now, speaking of K Slay, now if you really understand your hip hop, you know we could go all the way back to Star Wars. You know, K Slay was an OG graffiti artist, writer from back in the day. Like people don't really understand. People know K Slay because he made a name for himself with the drama king shit, with the mixtape shit. Right. You know, but they don't know his story is really a hip hop story from doing all the elements of hip hop back in the day when hip hop first started to getting in the streets, getting caught up in the system, coming out and reinventing himself, and then really, really creating a lane for so many artists. I don't think people understand the importance of K Slade, not to just hip hop, but the streets and the way he was taking calls from Rikers Island and from all the different prisons all over. Very, very important. Speak to me about how you linked up with K Slade and his legacy and the way that he inspired you.
Well, me being a young kid, always infatuated with hip hop. Hip hop was my dream, and I told myself, I didn't really need to take nothing else serious because one day I'm going to be a rapper. And I was a knucklehead, and I was being foolish. You know what I'm saying? Due to me doing that, I ended up in the streets doing certain because it didn't work out for me that at a young age. I ended up in the streets doing things I had no business doing. You know what I'm saying? And I found myself incarcerated. I was on Rikers Island. And I always knew how to rap. I had a name for it. People knew I knew how to spit. You know what I'm saying? But when I was in there and I seen that brothers you had to ask for permission to wash your ass. You know what I'm saying? I felt like being incarcerated beneath that, it was just, the only thing beneath that is death. And I told myself, this is not what I want for myself in the future. When I get home, I'm gonna take my music serious. I came home, I went in the studio, I recorded a CD with 7 songs. On the cover, I had a mic in one hand, a gun in the other hand. And I was listening to the radio, and at that time, if you weren't coming through certain entities like Murder Inc. or Rough Rider or, some of those, prominent figures, you weren't really getting in the game. It wasn't that easy to get on as it is now. And I listened to Hot 97 one night, and I listened to K Slade, and he was actually playing new artists on the radio. So I said, at that moment, I said, yo, I gotta meet this guy.
Yeah.
I started selling the CDs out my trunk. I looked up Hot 97. I went up to the radio station, and I waited for him. He came outside. I gave him my CD. I went back. I listened to the show. I didn't hear my song play. I was like, damn, this guy, he didn't play the song. I came back next week. I gave him the CD again. I listened. I still didn't hear my song. Now I'm getting kind of angry. I'm like, oh, this dude is nice. He's dissing me. So he's on the radio. I'm listening to the show. I'm noticing it's almost time for him to go off the air. He still didn't play my song. I called up, Snowball's Chance in Hell. He answered the phone. I'm like, yo, why haven't you played my song? He like, yo, everybody can't be a rapper. Some people gotta be a fireman. I'm like, yo.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, nah, man. You know what? I said, yo, when this dude come downstairs, I'm approaching him. He came down. I was actually calling from in front of the station. So when he came down, I approached him, and we was about to get at it. Was a person he was with at the time. They mediated, and he took the CD. He said, yo, I got you. I left it alone. I'm pissed off. I had a manager. Long story short, he passed away. As I was leaving his funeral, I had just got into an altercation, and my life was going left again. I got a phone call. It was K Slade, because my number was on the CD. And he said to me, you're on the radio next week, man. I listened to the CD. You dope. He brought me a High 97. Mobb Deep was there, Prodigy, rest in peace. I spit live on the air, and he wound up signing me.
Dang. That's crazy. At least he said fireman. He didn't say like McDonald's or nothing.
It's interesting.
UPS is hiring.
Right. He dissed me. But it's interesting what Talib said, K Slade give opportunities to new artists. Even back then, he was giving new artists an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So that's just an amazing thing because he's a pioneer at that. Like, not too many people in hip hop really gives new artists an opportunity. So shout out to K Slade, man. That's my big brother now.
Shout out to K Slade. Word is bond. Now, speaking of big brothers and people who give people opportunities, you also signed with Violator Management around this time. We talk about Chris Lighty on this show a lot. Do you have a favorite baby Chris Lighty story that you'd like to share with us? Rest in peace to Chris.
Yeah, man, so many. One of them just to show how many opportunities Chris was creating. I remember one time I came to Violator, myself and K Slade, and we was a little upset at the moment because we had so much hype around us, and at that time, things weren't going how we wanted them to go. So we was up there with Chris. He had been managing us for a little while, and I was like, yo, Chris, what's going on with the project? We need this to happen, that, and the other. And Chris just turned around and he's like, all right, 1 second, let me make a phone call. He made a phone call, and next thing I know, I was in Righteous Kill, the movie with Robert De Niro, 50 Cent, and all these other people. He put me in a movie like that quick, instantly. Like, hey, go over here, and here's your check, you know what I mean? And it wasn't a long scene, but I actually was in a movie with Robert De Niro and all of these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's just how powerful Chris was, man. He just made a call and put me in a movie. And he taught me so much, man. He was one of those people that at any given time, if you was going through something, you reached out to him, he'd just sit there and talk to you about it, man. Pass down knowledge, you know what I mean? Of him being in the game so long before you. So rest in peace to Chris, man. Great dude.
Yes,
Rest
indeed.
in peace.
You familiar with the Khalif Browder story?
No, I'm not.
I don't have the exact details in front of me, but he was a young man who was locked up on Rikers Island for a number of years for a crime he didn't commit, and he kept insisting he was innocent. And he ended up committing suicide in Rikers Island.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, Jay-Z
I
did something.
think his bail was like $3,000 or something, but he didn't have the money.
Something
It was like a
crazy.
small
And
crime.
I think what years was you in Rikers?
I was in Rikers. I had to be around 03.
Oh,
Because I started working with Kate. I started working with Kate Slay around 2003, going into 2004. So it had to be around that time. Yeah.
And obviously everybody know about Remy's situation. When y'all started courting, she got locked up at that time, right?
She got locked up in 2008.
Okay. Now, obviously as a black man, you've witnessed police overreach, police abuse, police violence. What is your feeling around the conversation of defunding the police and the conversations around the prison industrial complex? And you have a unique experience. Most people talk about the prison industrial complex and mass incarceration from an abstract point of view, but you have a direct experience. So what's your take?
The police need to be put to a stop as far as police brutality and them feeling like they can just take someone's life, you know what I mean, instantly at the drop of a hat. I don't know if defunding the police is the answer. Is that even going to change anything? Because this has been going on for so long. The only difference now is they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the cell phones. So everybody's actually, the world can actually see it. But this has been going on for so long. The actual police force was built on racism. It was actually initially started to keep the slaves on the plantation. Now, I don't know if people know that, the history of it. Yeah. So, it's rooted in police brutality towards Black and Latino people, period. I don't think that's ever going to change. Years down the line, it evolved into the deputy and things of that nature. But initially, it was only meant to keep slaves on a plantation.
Yeah, it's like Karis once said, overseer to officer.
There you go. Yeah. So I think that the only way we can fix it, us as a people, is we got to do what people from other walks of life do. Like if you go into the Jewish community, they police their own neighborhoods. We're the only ones who don't do that. I feel like we got to put ourselves in a position, because for us, we lived a lot of years in our lives. So planning ahead, I feel like we got to put our children in positions so they can understand how to, police your own neighborhoods and better ourselves as a people. Because I don't put no faith into the judicial system, the police force. I don't put no faith into that. They've been shooting us in the back for too long for me to be foolish enough to think it's ever going to stop. We have to build ourselves up and put ourselves in positions where we can, control some of that stuff.
We need to, instead of putting our resources and our energy and investing in a police force to come in and police us, which we know policing started as slave patrol, right? Why are we paying them to do that? Let's invest in our own communities. Let's do it in a more community-based way, like, it takes a village way, so that we create opportunities where people don't have to go out there and steal or rob and do whatever they have to do.
Exactly. That's where it starts, because when you're...
Absolutely.
It's all a cycle, and I've said this on the show before, because in making sure that we don't get jobs and making sure that if you if you get in trouble for having drugs, you go to jail instead of going to treatment centers, like in ending mass incarceration, like all of that will make the communities better. Because if you give people better opportunities for jobs, they're not going to want to have to take other people's possessions. Yes, there's going to be those few that just want to steal because they were born to steal. But majority of the people want to do the right thing. They're just put in circumstances where they cannot.
Right. Well, we have to create jobs. Here in New York City, you from New York City. You have
Long Island.
If you're going to China. Okay, yeah, same thing. Right over here in Lower Manhattan, you have Chinatown. When you go into Chinatown, it's all business and from people who are from China. They have storefronts and they're all spending money with each other.
Yep.
Going to the Jewish community in Crown Heights, same
Yes.
thing. All businesses, they spending money amongst each other. You have Little Italy, same thing. Why don't we have a town where black people have
Right.
businesses and we're all investing in each other? You know,
That's what
and
we
then you
need.
got people who say, yo, let's start the revolution. Let's do this. You're gonna start a revolution and then you get shot. You gotta go to their hospital. You know, they have their own hospitals. You know, you're going to get incarcerated and you got to go
Right.
do time in their
And
prisons
the
that
hospital,
are privately
the hospital
owned.
is the police
Right.
in inner city. It's the
Right.
same shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is, you know, those of us who are in the positions, we have to invest into ourselves. When they say black, you know, buy black owned, I truly believe in that. You know what I mean? Invest into, and then we can build ourselves up and have our own banks and put ourselves in positions where we can control what's going on. You know what I mean? Our own destiny. So that's my outlook on that.
We need to
Word up.
really expand Jamaica Ave. Like I used to love going shopping with my family, with my mom, whatever, in Jamaica Ave because it's all black people, and then
you mean
know
the concept of Jamaica Ave? Because I'm sure
concept.
I'm sure it's not a black man owning that shit. But I get what you're
There
saying.
you go.
I mean, this is I live in the J's. I like to sound cool. I live in the jungle, whatever, in LA.
Los Angeles, yeah.
Los Angeles. Now, when you walk down the street or whatever, it's like 5 different black people selling things on the corners like the Mexicans do. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I just want to go and buy one of your knockoff purses because I'm just happy that we're doing something. The purses are knocked off, whatever. But still, like the fact that they're out there, you know, hustling in our black communities, like that's what we need more of.
No doubt.
Right, definitely.
Cooperative economics.
Amen.
Powernomics, all of that.
Yes.
Now, Pap, your energy when you first came in the game, there's certain people came in the game and had a certain energy. I'm talking about when Nas first debuted, when we first started hearing Nas, first started hearing Snoop Dogg, we first started hearing Cannabis. You know, there was certain like, okay, this is that guy. You had tremendous amount of respect, lots of heat, the $1.5 million record deal with Jive. But then the debut didn't drop for a long time. It got pushed back, kept getting pushed back. Now we see artists coming out and speaking out against the label system. But you were talking against the label system early. Talk to us about how the label system failed you and, you know, just the difference between having your destiny in your own hands as opposed to being dependent on that system.
Definitely. You know, I knew I had no business doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I blame myself for that. First, I'll take the blame first. You know, at that time, I was doing so much on the independent level. Myself, K-Slay, my whole team, I had built myself up to a position where I wish I never ever signed the $1.5 million deal. I wish I would have just stayed independent because once I signed that deal, that put me in a position where, you know, I had to get their approval on music and things of that nature. And that wasn't what, you know, that's not what made me successful. What helped me get a name and build myself to a position where they even want to consider giving me a deal was myself and my team working, being creative on our own. And, you know, them having, you know, input and so much say-so and control over the music, it put me at a standstill and it forced me to miss my moment. You know, initially when I got my record deal, I got signed by the owner of the label because he said that his son was a fan of Law Library. So me being signed by the boss, it made everybody at the record label bitter because they couldn't take money out of my budget to do this, that, and the other thing. And they all stood down and they actually heard saying that, you know, once his first single come out, we're going to get him off the label. So I got hated on by the entire label just because the owner signed me. You know, these are things that you have to deal with when you're on a major label. Other people are in control, can be in control, and it just they might be hating on you. They might like you, they might not. Long story short, they didn't like me, and it damaged me for a while because the deal folded, and I had to start all over again on the independent level, which I wish I never ever signed to a major. To be honest, even though it was a lot of money, you know, all that money didn't go in my pocket. First off, and second of all, it was a bad move for my career.
I was reading on YouTube that some of your fans think there's like a conspiracy against you. Do you feel that there's any truth in you being blackballed on some level because of how things went with your first contract?
You know, first and foremost, I like to take blame for any of my shortcomings in life. I don't like to blame people. You know, a lot of people do say that, and that's based on their own observation because people, you know, they really aren't blind. there was a lot of things that took place, you know what I mean, when I first came in the game. There were a lot of moving parts. I was young, I was fresh out the street, I was ambitious, and I thought the industry was real. I thought everything that rappers rapped about, they meant it, and they actually lived up to it. So, you know, I behaved in that manner, and that shot me in the foot. But also, you know, when a Sean Bell would be shot, or any injustice would happen to my people, I would speak out against it. I would be on the front line. Al Sharpton would reach out to me. I would march. You know what I'm saying? And that caused a lot of hate for me. They would put me in the papers and slander me. Any opportunity they got, you know what I mean? That caused a downside. And yeah, I believe it is some truth to what happened. But, you know, I've been able to mature, you know what I'm saying, and show that I am human, and show my family life through television, show black love, and let them know, yo, I'm a peaceful guy, I've matured, and I'm still working, you know what I mean? But to answer your question, a lot of people say it, and yes, I believe there is some truth to it.
Right. I'm glad you spoke on what happened with the when you made the Sean Bell song, the Change Gonna Come 50 Shots joint. Because as an artist, I've always made those type of records throughout my career. People know me for making those type of records, and I've gotten an awful lot of backlash. And in this era, in the digital era, the backlash, to be honest with you, brother, has gotten worse. You and me both went through the same type of backlash, like when me and Mos Def was doing Free Mumia concerts, and we did records about Amadou Diallo back in the days when we first got on Raucous. I mean, we had problems with the city, and with the papers was posting shit about me in the papers, and you know, when I was going out, when I used to go as Remy, I used to run around partying in all them spots. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was partying in all the spots, my name was in the papers with all types of foul shit, and you know, in the digital era, it's like they come at me crazy, you know. But I want to say I appreciate you mentioning that, and I share that with you, and I'm glad you speak. I've heard you speak on that before, and a lot of people don't understand that. That's why a lot of artists don't make that conscious music.
To elaborate on that, brother, you know, at that time, I also had a song called Sharades, which was speaking about the hip hop police and things of that nature.
Yes.
And I'm talking about, they would come to my shows. There's footage of this on YouTube. I had a show. They came to my show with horses, and they detoured everybody away from the show. Like everybody who pulled up, they pulled them over, searched them, shook their cars up. You know what I'm saying? You know, if I was going to a club, they would go to the club and tell them, if you let them in here, we're shutting this down. Damn. Like it got real bad for me. It got real bad because when I did the Sean Bell song, it hit 10-10 wins. Like instantly, it went everywhere. And the actual owner of that Sam Cooke sample, I mean, he tried to sue us. He threatened us. He wanted
that song is not actually released though, right?
No, we just created it and put it out for the people. Yeah. Yo, this guy was like a nightmare. Like he went after us full-fledged. And it was a positive song talking about an injustice. So it was very weird to me that this guy was so adamant about having that record pulled down from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so bad with the newspapers. Like I would do harmless videos, bro. I would shoot harmless videos, and I would end up in the newspaper the next day. Like it was a guy who, you know, he let me use an ambulance truck for my video. You know, it was a volunteer ambulance company. He said, hey, no problem, you can use it. Yo, the next day I'm in the paper. Papoose tricks guy to use ambulance truck for a negative video. And the papers would slander me so bad around that time that I had to go hire a lawyer to say, yo, I need to strike back at these newspapers because they keep assassinating my character in the paper like every other day. You know, when my wife had a situation and she blew trial, they was making fun of the situation, you know what I mean? So I got tired of it. I had to hire an attorney to, you know, kind of get them off of my back because everything had fell down on me around that time at one time. You know, my wife had blew trial. You know, my record deal folded. I'm getting attacked every day by the newspapers. So it was like, they was just like, let's kick him while he's down. You know what I mean? They worked hard to tear me down, you know, just for speaking out for the people. You know what I mean? That's why when I see brothers speaking out, I always pull them to the side and let them know, I love what you're doing. But keep your third eye wandering and watch your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you're paying attention because you might not be paying attention to that, but they are. They're watching you.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? Use your voice, but be conscious.
We're
Yeah.
gonna talk more about Third Eye in a second. But before we get into that, because I like that record too. Remy Ma,
Love her.
she's such a powerful, powerhouse, iconic MC. What she represents to the game, and just you having the inside track. I mean, y'all exchanged vows while she was serving time. The love has to be real. Talk to me about how you feel about just Remy as an artist and what she represents to the culture. Just because people see this, people see the reality TV, and they see this. They see. We're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. But just me as an MC, I would like to hear from you why Remy is such a powerful MC.
Why Remy is such a powerful MC is because, you know, her impact on the game is just so tremendous. Also, she writes her own rhymes. Unfortunately, a lot of females who come into the game, and I'm not knocking them, you know what I'm saying? There are certain females who came out, not all of them, but they didn't write their own raps. Anyone who's been around Remy, they'll tell you, if you've ever been in the studio with her, she sits there and she scribes it. You know what I'm saying? She can bang with the best of dudes out there on a lyrical level. And also, when you have MCs and you have lyricists, there are always people out there who will try to find a loophole and say, okay, he can rap, but he can't make a hit record. Remy, she's a lyricist and she's made plenty of hit records.
She can make
So
them hits.
she's been able to silence the critics. You know what I'm saying? They can't even use that against her because she's had so many hits. And which is a lie. Lyricists can make records, but they just say that because they're intimidated by lyricists.
Right.
We talk about that later. Anyway,
Right.
she's been able to, she's been able to be an MC and, make those records that go on a commercial level. She's an inspiration for all women, period, because she speaks out, she's independent. There's so many different layers to her, man. And lyrically, her pen is just amazing.
Shout out to Remy Ma. And I really love that you specified that she writes her own lyrics, because a lot of times when you have couples and they're both in the same industry, they like to say, oh, well, the man did this, the man did that. And it's like, no, they're separate. They're just powerful together. But she does her thing, I do my thing. And that's how we rock. So thank you for shouting that out.
They always try that. They always try to say, oh, Pat must have wrote that. Remy was in the game killing shit before y'all even knew who Pat was.
That's right.
Right.
Like, that's just the truth. So,
I don't know why society tries to discount women. They do it in comedy too. If you I date a comedian, and if you write a funny joke, like, oh, he wrote that joke, it's like, no, I wrote my joke, he writes his jokes, and that's what it is.
Right.
But
right.
blended families are a reality of the world, and you two are a beautiful model of that. How did that process go down, and what was your philosophy approaching family as Remy got out of jail? And why was it important that you and Remy have your own children as well?
Yeah, well, us becoming a family was something that happened, gradually. We started out as friends initially, and she was going through her situation. I kept telling her, you're going to beat the case. And she was telling me, like, I'm going to blow trap. And I said, well, if you do blow trial, don't worry, I'm going to be there for you. And she was like, yeah, right. She didn't even believe me. She actually blew trial, and I just felt like she deserved the support that I gave her. You know what I'm saying? Because I was telling her that, everybody's going to be there for you. Like, you're an important person. You take care of a lot of people. I don't see why. She's like, no, everybody's going to leave. Nobody's going to be there. And I was like, are you kidding me? When it happened, a lot of people scattered, and I was like, wow, she was right. Mm-hmm. And I felt like she deserved it. And, throughout her being incarcerated, one of the only things we had was communication, because if I visited her, hey, put your hands on the table. I couldn't hug her for too long or none of that. So all we had was communication. And throughout that experience, it was a blessing in disguise, because now when anything happens that we disagree, instead of arguing, we take turns speaking. So there's a rule. While she's speaking, I have to be quiet. While I'm speaking, she has to be quiet. And in doing that, you see where you're wrong at. Like, when you're conflicting with somebody and y'all both are firing off, you feel like you're so right. And I understand it. But if you just hear a person out, you'll be like, wow, I made you feel like that. I didn't mean to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that helped us grow even more, together. And it made our family stronger. Communication is very important. us getting married, we loved each other. You know what I'm saying? And we felt like that was the next level. Taking it to the next. We're always trying to grow together as a unit. So I hope some of that answers your question.
I was gonna say, not only did it answer my question, like that really that's some words to remember. When I'm talking, you be quiet, and when she's talking, I be quiet. Because a lot of times in arguments, especially when you have two strong personalities, you don't ever even figure out what the heck you're arguing about because everyone's just going at it. So that's just a gem that I'm gonna put in my back pocket. Thank you.
Yes, 9 times out of 10, an argument is usually a misunderstanding. And you can never identify a misunderstanding if both of you guys are just screaming at each other. Because in your heart, you feel like you're right. But I want you to know, your opponent feels the same way.
Right.
So that can cause 2 trains to clash if nobody ever be quiet. I promise you. If you just hear the person out, you will see like, damn, man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have did that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And y'all can work it out.
When you're talking about Black Love, and your shirt says Black Love, and I've seen the hats that say Black Love. I had a song called Black Love on my demo. When I first tried to get signed, it's a song I never actually put out. I think it might be on YouTube somewhere. But I think, that's one of the things I really respect and admire and appreciate about both you and Remy, is that y'all put Black Love front and center. And not enough of us do that. And, even I spoke earlier about the show Love and Hip Hop. I don't see enough love or hip hop on that show. And I feel like y'all bring y'all are so necessary, vital. If reality TV is going to exist, which it is, it ain't going to go anywhere anytime soon, and we are going to have black spaces in reality TV, then we need Papoose and Remy Ma. We need that example of Black Love. That song you did, Black Love, it's a beautiful song. Just tell me about how you came up with the idea that I don't need to just show in my action and how I'm moving, but I need to put it on a shirt. I need to put it on a hat. I need to state it and own the fact that this is Black Love that we are showing you.
Black love really exists, and unfortunately, the picture that's painted for our people is that it doesn't. That every black home is a single parent home, or our children are forced into the system, through adoption, being adopted, which is not a bad thing. But they just try to paint this picture that black love doesn't exist. Like, we can't love each other and live civilized amongst each other. When I was a kid, I always tell the story, When I was a kid, I can remember seeing pictures of the wall of my parents' wedding. My pops had the Jerry curl, the all white suit. My mom's had the fly dress on. Right. And as a kid, that made me say, damn, one day I want to get married. I want to have a wife. So I say that to all parents, just know your children are watching. That influenced me to want to grow up and have a wife one day. But to answer your question, that's one of the reasons why I do it. Because, like I said, they try to paint this false narrative of us that we can't live in a civilized home and raise our children under marriage. You know what I'm saying? Black love is very important. And also, it's black out all negativity and show love. Black love does exist.
You and Remy took an offer you couldn't refuse to do VH1's Love and Hip Hop. And since then, you've done multiple specials. How important does it feel to be held up as an example of positivity in reality TV?
Actually, it wasn't intentional. You know what I'm saying? When I first did Love and Hip Hop, initially when my wife was away, they was reaching out. They wanted us to be a part of the show. We was like, nah, we don't want to be a part of that. They throw drinks on each other. And things of that nature. Somebody throw a drink on us, we gonna be in trouble. You know what I mean?
It's over.
So we was like, nah, we not getting on that show. When she came home, speaking out about some of the things I was telling you earlier, how, I kind of was in a bad light from past experiences, being young, coming up in the game. And my wife went away for a very serious offense. So we wanted to show the world and let them know, we're human. We have a family. We're civilized people. Right. This show might not be a bad idea if we actually go on this show and show them who we really are at this point in our lives. So we went on the show, and, I was expecting when the show first aired, I was like, they're going to clown me. They're going to kill me, man. Like, they're going to destroy me. Like, I'm on one knee proposing. I knew the world never seen that side of Papoose. Right. You know what I'm saying? They knew me as Papoose, the kid from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when it actually aired, I got so much love. everybody responded in a positive way. And I said, wow, the world is really tired of seeing our people conflicting with each other on reality TV. They really wanted to see some love. So it's definitely what was important for us to show it. But in reality, we didn't plan it. We just showed how we were living, and the world embraced it.
Well, thank you for that example. And I love watching your daughter grow up. It's like I feel like I know her from seeing her from a baby and now seeing her now, and it's beautiful.
Now, you almost a year ago released an album called Underrated, and I relate to that album title. I relate to some of the things you were saying in them songs, like on a song where you're like, yo, is it falling on deaf ears? I understand that. But I want to tell you, brother to brother, it's not falling on deaf ears. It's just some people are not in the mental space to receive it. Some people don't deserve it. But the people who need to hear it are hearing it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely one of the people I really appreciate some of the things you did on that album. But in particular, you were speaking about how when you see somebody doing something conscious, you pull them aside and be like, yes, thank you. I want to thank you for the song Third Eye. You mentioned Third Eye earlier when we was talking. But that's like really you've done political records, but that's one of your more conscious political songs. It directly attacks some of the disparities that are going on in the world, from the economy to immigration. What do you feel like is your responsibility to do that? Do you feel like that's the responsibility as an entertainer, or do you feel like it's just your responsibility as a man and not so much as an entertainer to take these public stances?
I feel both. You know, I feel like it's my responsibility. You know, I was able to gain knowledge of self at a young age when I was a teenager, and I feel like I owe the brothers who actually gave me knowledge of self and taught me our history and, you know, where we come from and needed to go as a people. I owe it to them. You know what I mean? To spread that knowledge as much as I can in music, because unfortunately, people don't really want to hear that all the time. You know what I'm saying? So as much as I can, you know what I mean, in the process of me making a living, I try to spread the knowledge. You know what I mean? And I wound up doing it more than I probably should be, because you know how that goes. As an entertainer, you know, now that I'm actually received, you know, from the world as a rapper, an artist, you know what I mean, a musician, it's my responsibility to use that platform in a positive way. Now, saying that, I don't want artists out there or people to feel like it's my platform, I do what I want. You're 100% right. But it's still your responsibility. Sometimes, do something positive. You know, if it's a missing child, you know, say something about it in your song. If there's an injustice, speak up about it. You're going to get backlash. So I'm not telling you to do it all of the time. But to answer your question, yes, I feel obligated to do it as a person and as an entertainer.
Right. And you said you had knowledge yourself. I heard a numerical slaughter. You talk about building with the gods. You were dropping some science there. I didn't know if that was a shout out to the gods or you was coming from a personal place on there. But you said that you got that early in your life.
Yes. My brother, rest in peace to the God born true. You know, he actually gave me knowledge of self in my teenage years at a very young age. So I was able to learn, you know what I mean? Like I said, where we come from as a people and things of that nature. Also, I had very great teachers in grade school. I was very fortunate. You know, my teachers would close the door. In fourth grade, I can remember, would close the door and teach us about Langston Hughes, you know, teach us the real history of Dr. King, Malcolm X. Then they would open the door and do the textbook stuff. But my teachers were pro-black, and I was blessed to have that opportunity. But I gained knowledge of self, you know, through rest in peace to Born True.
Peace to the God.
Endangered Species, that was just released, feels really like a classic New York hard-hitting rap. Lots of keys and heavy drums. Did you feel like you wanted to return to back to something with that record?
Yeah, it wasn't that I wanted to return. To be honest with you, as far as the music, I wanted to elevate my game because, you know, I received compliments, but I received criticism. And one of the things they say was, yo, Pat, you got dope lyrics, but sometimes you use whack beats. So I said, you know what I want to do on this project is I want to get with some real musicians because everything on this album is all live instruments. So I said, you know, even if they don't like the beats, they can't say it's not quality. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Brady Watt. I went in there with him, premiered, did some cuts. And everything is live instruments, but I wanted to step up the level of on the musical side because the lyrics is I'm going to be honest with you, the lyrics is the most important thing to me. just being a fan of guys like Talib, you know what I mean, Rakim, Nas, all these guys, you know, your bars is important. But I really wanted to take into consideration on the musical side. Not that I didn't in the past, but I wanted everything to be built from scratch because I work hard on my lyrics, so I wanted the producer to work equally as hard on the music.
What's the endangered species in the title of the album?
Me, you know, true MCs are an endangered species in hip hop. Just for everything with COVID, you know, a pandemic happens, our people are hit the most, and all the police brutality, we are an endangered species in the world, not just in this country, Africa, everywhere. So that title chose me. I didn't really choose that title.
Definitely shout out to Brady Watt. As I was listening to this album, the song Maturity came on. And when it came on, I was like, yo, how does shit switch to my iTunes? Because Brady has sent me that beat as part of like a pack. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I worked very closely with Brady Watt. And when I finally got around to writing to it, I was like, yo, Brady, I want to use this beat. He said, you can't have that beat. I gave it to Pat. I was like,
wow.
So
You snooze,
when the song came on, I was like, yo. I was like, oh, Pap got that. I forgot. Brady told me that Pap got on that beat. But first of all, shout out to Brady Watt. I have a band called Whiskey Boys, and I understand. And Brady is a key figure in this band, and I understand. And Brady also works with DJ Premier, and I saw your bass and bars with him, and I understand what you're saying about people. I take the lyrics seriously too. A few years back, I started touring as much as I could with the live band. Obviously, I'm not going to always get the payday where I can afford to pay the band, but as much as I could, I'm taking the band out, you know, because like it's what you said. I want people to put as much into the music and the backing tracks as I put into the lyrics.
Here you go, bro.
I really like that song. That song sort of sums up a lot of what you've been saying in this interview. And Brady's an excellent producer, and I want to tell people to go to my Patreon page and support my Patreon right now because I got a song with Ibe, some Cuban twins from Paris that Brady produced that's on my Patreon right now. And next month on my Patreon is the song with Kendra Ross that Brady produced. So shout out to Brady Watt, definitely. I like y'all working relationship.
Nah, definitely. Brady, yo, it's crazy you said that. Shout out to Brady. Same thing happened to me. Like, I was inspired one day. I created a whole song to a beat he gave me. And I'm like, yo, Brady, I recorded on this beat you gave me. Yo, check this out. He's like, that beat not available no more. I was sitting there like, what?
Yeah.
So why did you send it to me? He's like, I said, you know what? You're right, bro.
You know, he's hedging his bets. He's hedging his bets. I get it. As a producer, being a producer's a hustle too. And he's new to the producer hustle. He conquered the bass playing world. He's new to the producer hustle, so he's trying to figure it out.
Man.
Yeah,
exactly. Yo, Brady is so talented, bro. I love working with him because, like I was saying earlier, the same passion that I put into the lyrics, this guy puts into making. If you ever see him play, like you can tell he's in his element. Like he's into it. Like it reminds me of me when I'm on stage rapping. Like I love the rap. Like he loves it. So shout out to Brady.
When I'm on tour with him, when he's playing his solo, I'm always like, look at that facha. That's what you call a bass face. Look at that facha. Now you mentioned when Jasmine asked you about the album, you mentioned the times that are going on in the pandemic. COVID-19. You did a song called COVID-19. A lot of people, the worst thing about COVID and what we're experiencing right now is the lack of information. Now, if you come from a knowledge-based background, a knowledge of self-based background, you come from a background where you need to show and prove. And if you don't have evidence and data and facts to back up what you're saying, that could create an uncomfortable situation. And we are living in a time in the world where largely we don't exactly know what's being said to us, or we don't know the sources. And not knowing is something that people like you and me are not used to dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's affecting our community. What I see personally, I was in Europe at the beginning of this shit. I know I got sick. Whatever they describing this COVID shit is, I know I had the shit. I came back, I tested, they tested negative. They said I didn't have the antibodies. I've been out here taking the COVID test every week with Chappelle and them, so I know I don't have whatever they say it is. But whether or not you believe it started somewhere, whether or not you believe you should wear a mask, whether or not believe everything people are saying, the fact is that people are getting sick and people are dying and there's a sickness running through the people. Whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? So us as a community, we have to deal with the reality on the ground that we are dealing with a sickness. We are dealing with a pestilence. And I'm glad that you dealt with it in song form because that's your superpower. So, and I'm also interested in the fact that you ended the song saying we're from Africa. So explain to me about how you see what's going on in the world with this pandemic and how it relates specifically to African people, because being that the world is sick and being that we are the marginalized people, the sickness is going to affect us in greater numbers.
Right. I'm gonna tell you. You said so much, man. I agree with you so much. This when I'm talking to my wife and we take turns speaking, she say so much that I forget what I want to attack first. But
I definitely shared some of myself in there. I definitely had my own feelings.
Yeah. Nah, you said so much, man, because there's so many people out there, who they say, oh, it's fake. COVID-19 is bullcrap. Take off that mask. This, that, and the third. People are dying. That's not fake. You understand what I'm saying? It's cool. I don't want to say it's cool, but it's okay to be a conspiracy theorist, because there are a lot of conspiracies that actually take place. But that doesn't mean you should close your mind to what's going on. You can have knowledge yourself, but you still have to apply it to your everyday life and watch and pay attention to your surroundings, like you said, to what's going on the ground. And people out here dying. This is not a time for you to sit here and say, this isn't real. And as far as being from Africa, the reason why I actually said that on the song was because this initially they said COVID came from China, this, that, and the third. It was a rumor. It can't affect black people. You know what I mean? At first, this was the foolish thing that people were saying, and then it came to the point where we were the most, the people who was affected the most.
Yeah.
And when we walk down the street and they see us, they're like, "Oh, get away from them!" Corona. You know what I'm saying? So in the song, I was saying, we have strong lungs, great stamina. There's so many layers to black people. So I just wanted to reinstall that back into our people that, we are a strong people. This is something that we can overcome. Even though, unfortunately, we're being affected the most, because the reason why I think we were affected the most was because we have the weakest medical system. Initially, when they set up testing, they set it in New York, where I live at. They set it up in the richest county in New York. You know what I'm saying? And the poor people, we didn't have testing. We didn't have anything. So, of course, it was going to spread. Nobody knew they had it. Everybody was spreading it amongst each other. But in that song, the reason why I took it back to Africa, because I wanted to remind my people that we are a strong people. We have strong lungs, great stamina, and this is something that we can overcome.
Now, when he was talking about Talib said a lot, so he was trying to unpack. The one thing that I unpacked, when did you have COVID, Talib? When you went to Europe?
I didn't get diagnosed with COVID. There was no doctor that said I had COVID. But when I went to Europe in February, I've toured 200 dates a year for the past 20 years straight up until lockdown. Never once have I ever canceled a show because of a sickness. I canceled a show because I had a problem with promoter, canceled the show because I didn't make the flight, didn't make the, tour bus got in late, shit like that. But never because I was too sick to go on stage. I had to cancel like 2 weeks worth of shows because I got so sick. I couldn't even leave the hotel I was in. And I never experienced no sickness like that. When I finally got well enough to get on a plane and go to New York, I went to New York and the COVID was popping off. And where I was at in Europe was a hot spot. So I went to the doctor in Brooklyn and I was like, yo, I think I got COVID-19. And the society wasn't sophisticated enough to take it seriously. Trump at that point was like, it'll go away. You know what I'm saying? The doctor, what he said was, he tested me. He said, you have a respiratory infection. I said, well, shit, ain't that what COVID is?
Exactly.
He was like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, nah, you have an inflamed respiratory infection. And he gave me some, what I needed to take and it went away. But who knows who I could have gotten sick in my life. You know what I'm saying? With them not knowing what it was.
Right. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. The whole time COVID hit, we took it serious from the gate because my wife was adamant about it. You know what I mean? And eventually so was I. You know what I'm saying? So we quarantined. We did everything. We followed all of the necessary steps. I went to the doctor. I got tested. I tested negative for COVID, but I tested positive for the antibody. So I was like, when the hell did I have it?
False positives. Right.
I didn't remember how, when did I have COVID? How did I have the antibodies? I don't remember having it, but they say that maybe you was exposed to it or something to that degree, but I never got sick.
Yeah.
But they said I got the antibody. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people had it around that same time because it was a lot of sickness going through Up Rocks right before we went on before we went on lockdown.
A lot of people I knew had the same experience that I just shared with y'all around the same time.
Yeah, I actually have a family member. My cousin actually died from COVID. And
Sorry to hear that, fam.
yeah, my uncle, he didn't have COVID, but the hospitals in New York at that time was so overwhelmed with COVID patients that he went in there for another illness. They didn't pay him no attention. He went into cardiac arrest and they found him on the floor in the emergency room, dead. You know what I'm saying? So COVID, the whole COVID thing was it was a nightmare for me, bro.
Well, listen, it's been my honor and my pleasure to have you as a guest, but I do have one more question that I have to ask before I allow you to leave us. You've been so gracious with your time.
It's a privilege for me, brother.
Oh yeah, it's an honor. It's an honor for me. Rakim has spoken on you about you being one of the MCs who are going to carry his legacy. I share that honor with you. On this album, you have Conway, Griselda's making so much noise right now. New York rap, Griselda and other people are bringing like that New York style back. Who do you feel like in the new generation can carry the torch in the way that Rakim looked to us to carry the torch?
Wow, man, that's a heavy question, man. Because when you talk about Rakim, man, I hold Rakim in such high regard. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I don't want to diss nobody, man, but I don't think nobody can fill those shoes, man. That's out there right now.
That's a fair answer.
Rakim, the R, like, I hold guys like that in such high regard. I hold them in such high regard that when I speak about and when I start to be judgmental towards MCs, people like my wife, and they call me a hater because I call so many rappers whack. They're like, you're a hater. And I'm like, I'm not a hater. I just know what a true lyricist looks like when I see one.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't see that in these guys. Some of them don't write their own rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Not to say I don't like some of the guys up today. I like a lot of dudes, but come on, I'm not putting you on that level. Rakim,
right.
Nah.
You said you was raised by Kane. We need to see that Rakim versus Kane versus.
Definitely, man. Shout out to Rakim, man. Rakim is one of my favorite of all time, and that would be amazing. I would lose my mind. Like, I would probably faint during that verses.
Right.
Kane and Rock.
Word up. Word up. Timberland, Swiss, get on it. Get on it.
Yeah, man. They was talking about it before, but it never happened.
Yeah, we need to revisit that conversation, take it off the table. Well, shit,
Word is
man.
bond. Word is bond.
Look. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Like I said, this is why we do this, so we can talk to esteemed guests like yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, the People's Party is proud to present Papoose. Thank you for being on our show.
Oh my God, amazing.
Me, my brother. It's a privilege, man. And go get the album Endangered Species available on all digital platforms. And I want to thank everybody who's bought the album because this album actually performed better than any of my projects ever.
Awesome.
So
that's good. People are looking for that real in these uncertain times, brother.
Definitely.
Thank you, brother.